And we're live with Scott and Dakota. If you've been following Pendants for the last month, you've seen these faces everywhere. We've been talking about them and telling you to go to Anchorage. And hopefully, if you're checking this out, that means you actually went and you had a hell of a ride going there. Um, what an awesome, incredible indie film. Let's talk about it. So, first, introduce yourselves and how and what you did on the film.
All right, my name is Scott Monahan. I'm the director of Anchorage.
My name is Dakota Loesch. I'm the screenwriter of Anchorage.
I play the character Jacob.
I played the character John.
Yeah, and this is our movie, Anchorage. Thank you all for watching. We wish we could be there with you watching it in the theater, but we were watching along as soon as we were on the countdown. We had a beer and a cigarette outside, and we're like, all right, we got to get inside. The movie's about to start. So we love this movie, and we're just glad that people are watching it and responding to it, and we're just excited to share our work with you.
It's awesome, and it's so rare these days that an independent film, well, it's rare that any film can evoke a strong response from the audience. And I know that you're going to have one of two reactions to Anchorage. If you're like most people, you're either going to love it, and it's going to be like something amazing, you're going to be talking about it for months and months and months, or you're going to hate it. And I think
Oh,
that
did we lose you, bud? I think we might have lost you.
Uh-oh.
Lost me?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. Okay, did I lag? Okay, so let's repeat that.
Wrong reaction. That's where we had you last.
Yeah, so you're gonna have a strong reaction to this film one way or another. Either you're gonna absolutely love it, and you're gonna be talking about it for weeks and weeks and months, and you're gonna be telling everybody about it and what you liked about it, or you're gonna hate it. And I think that's I think
Oh, man.
I'm
Yeah,
seeing from Dakota's face that you're cool with that.
Yeah, that is the intended, hoped for kind of reaction, honestly. Like, we feel like our job is to elicit an emotional response, right? And then what that emotional response is, that's up to you as the viewer, you as the audience member, right? So good, bad, or otherwise, that's not for us to figure out. We made it. We put in a bunch of questions so you have the answers. And to have those polemic responses, love, hate, that's some of our favorite responses. So
Yeah.
Thank you for loving it or hating it,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my favorite thing about art is that you're allowed to have your own opinion about it, and I think that I know there's challenging aspects about it, right? I mean, there's things that that require in an age where we have attention issues because of social media and our cell phones and all these things, to be stuck with two characters in a car for the whole time of like, oh my God, and everything in the background kind of looks the same. Where are they? That's intentional,
Where is everybody else in the world too?
Yeah, it's not like because of budgetary limitations it's like, all right, if you set up your parameters for your film and what you're making, and then you have to make intentional choices. And so when I see, if that is like causes some like angst, or like, when is something else going to happen? When are we going to see some other characters? These guys are like, I mean, these two characters, Jacob and John, are not heroes in any way, and for me as an actor, my favorite role is to play villains and to play evil characters, or evil, and because humans are complicated, right?
Yeah.
And so if I can get you in a moment to feel for Jacob, who is doing something that he shouldn't be doing, which is running opioids, which is a problem in America, and trying to get rich off of selling those, which is a problem from you go into capitalism and the pharmaceutical industry, and that industry that was created to begin with. And he's not a hero, right? He's a villain. He's a violent white man, which is like that the world of Anchorage is somewhat of a nightmare of the reality that we live in. And they say, write what you know, and so I think
Yeah, and in anchoring, not to use a pun there, but in anchoring on this personal relationship between these two brothers and just focusing on that story over everything, not to go back to the Pendants like logo and slogan, but in focusing on that and just making that your center point, your true north, it meets culture in an interesting way, right? So in inventing this story about these brothers, we thought about their story, and then you see how it reflects upon the greater world. And our dream was to set up questions. You have the answers. You go home with your friends arguing about it, And we even have our own opinions about what happens to the brothers or what caused it all. And so, because, you know, we can separate ourselves as viewers too at a certain point. So you as a viewer, you're absolutely right, however you feel about it.
Yeah.
And we'd love to talk about it, good, bad, ugly, otherwise, you know.
I think you hit on it a little bit there of, you know, this is America in a way, right? You're talking about something that's really relevant. And I find it so ironic that the last film that was talking about this America was your friend Sabrina Doyle, Lorelei.
Mhm.
And it's so interesting the connection that that film has to now this festival where Lorelei is giving us the gift of Anchorage in a way, making that introduction. But in a way, it's talking about, I don't know if you've ever talked with Sabrina about this, but there's a parallel in the films, both films. I'm sure you've talked about it and given the response. The Lost American Dream,
Lost
right?
American- I mean,
Or
her
maybe-
film has a character with blue hair, which is a small thing.
There's 3 shades of blue in that picture.
Yeah. Dreams is a very important thing in that as well, because I think that's really important. And I think that one of the things that ties it together that she talks about in her interviews and stuff like that is about the class system and kind of like the lower class that she came from, the working class of the UK, and being able to, you know, when I saw her movie, thinking like, how is this not an American director and writer
I
that's
was
writing
convinced
this?
she grew up in the same town as me.
Because
yeah,
she captured that so well. And our film was, I mean, these are people we know. Dakota and I weren't just sitting around and being like, what would be cool? Let's make a movie about opioids because that's trending. And let's talk about these characters in this situation because that would be fun. It's
no,
like
we
these
found
are-
it was our common bond. Yeah.
It's a common bond of stuff that we've dealt with addiction and the opioid epidemic in America and what it feels like to hustle and want to get out of your circumstances, but not necessarily having the tools to do that. And so you resort to what's around you.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're therefore, by the grace of God, saved by the women in our lives, our mothers, and the people that have pushed us away from violence and pushed us away from drugs and
into the arts.
into the arts, which is where we are now.
Yeah.
Well, you're both actors, primarily. You've put on a director hat. Dakota, phenomenal writing,
Thank you.
phenomenal performance as well.
Yeah, bring it in.
And yet, having met you, can't imagine how the nicest people could become these two. You know, it's incredible. And one of the things I think that a lot of actors stumble with, and you can speak on this as actors, of course, you have stage performance backgrounds. How do you not judge these characters
Great question.
when you're playing them?
Great question.
You have something about
I think we kind of ripped it from Ethan Hawke, where it's like you got to be the character's lawyer. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to think what they did was right. You could even know that they did the wrong thing. But your job is to represent them to the utmost of your ability. You know what I mean? You are that on-screen representation for them. You know?
Yeah, and you know, for me, the character of Jacob was as an actor, we as actors have this amazing like ability, or not ability, it's a gift to be able to channel things from your own life and your own experiences. And I come from like a very strict religious military, like all the men in my life were pushing me towards violence, whether that was in sports or whether it was the way I was raised with my father. And Jacob is, in some instances, the worst versions of myself. But and maybe even a version of myself I could have become had I not had influences that steered me the other direction. And so it's like a very personal journey for me to explore with those things of such violence. But something my mom told me when I was very young was that your conscience is a voice, right? And whether you believe in God or you believe in whatever, but there's that voice that says, hey, you shouldn't do that. Hey, don't throw that trash on the ground. Like maybe, hey, put the shopping cart away after you're done with it.
Be kind to your neighbor.
Be kind to your neighbor. There's very like those things. And when you listen to your voice, it becomes louder and more prevalent in your life. the less that you listen to it, the quieter it becomes. So I remember that when I was making this movie, I thought it would be interesting if Jacob's character his conscience he was starting to listen to that more, and that voice was starting to become louder. And those things that he was doing before didn't sit as well with him. And then you have this dichotomy of the two brothers and the toxic masculinity and this battling of who's in charge and who's in the lead. And that was kind of like really something I really enjoyed putting onto screen in that kind of way for myself to even like just kind of exercise some of those demons in the desert.
Yeah, and little character decisions you make early on will lead to those big epiphanies later. Just being like, Jacob felt beholden to John because it's his brother. And John feels like no matter what happens, I'm in charge because I'm the older one. And that'll lead to trouble down the road for any of you who've seen the picture before. You know what I mean? So it's those little things you set up early on that lead to great chasms later and great conflict and the shit we don't want in real life, which we love in the movies,
Okay.
Conflict and all the head-to-head.
Okay. I've got a question for you that's a little bit interesting, and I guarantee you've never had it before.
All right.
Okay. Jacob and John walk in the door, and they see Dakota and Scott. What's that going to be like?
I think John thinks he could make some money. I think Dakota's worried off the bat. I'm like, I don't trust that. I don't trust either of these fuckers. I knew guys like this. I don't like these guys, dude. I think Scott would be like, let me go talk to him. Let me feel it out. Let me suss it out. You know what I mean? Like I can take care of this. Like head first. I'm gonna go talk to him.
I mean, like in a fight, or just like they meet each other in a room.
Walk into a bar.
I think more like a personal encounter. Like they walk into your house. Like, what's that like? Because you couldn't be further apart in a way. And there's then in that opposite, there is probably overlap somewhere. Yeah. There are parts of you that are in that. But I'm talking more of just who you are. You're not drug pushers.
Yeah.
No. Right? You're not skinheads. You're not. I mean, not that your characters are skinheads, but like it's not like it's a juxtaposition there.
Yeah.
Again, So those two brothers walk into your apartment right now. That's interesting.
Yeah.
and sorry to cut you out there, but like one of the things I think is really interesting about performers, and I've talked to actors who've talked about that acting is catharsis, processing emotions and stepping into the other. So I guess in this question, what I'm trying to get at is, I think it's easy to judge people like these two characters. Does playing them help you understand people like this a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, like we are paying homage to people in our lives that, like, again, that are not here with us anymore, or people that I knew. And like for me, as Scott, I grew up in a military family. We traveled all the time, and so I had to learn how to make friends fast, make good friends fast, and also be okay with letting people go in my life. And so it really opened me up, and to be living in foreign countries. I grew up in Japan, and like those kind of things really changed the way of like taking judgment out of it, and then just getting that first initial read of somebody's energy and just being like, and like giving them the opportunity to be themselves, because you don't know, our brains are going to look at somebody and make a quick analysis based on whatever our brain is going to do. But there is so much more to that. There's a whole story of what their day was like, what their life has been like, so many things that we don't expect. And so I personally don't judge really anybody off of that, And so I think, though, if Jacob walked into a room, Jacob is a hustler, right? And so like in the scene with the cop, like Jacob is, he knows how to talk to people. He knows how to connect with people. And you see him use that in a way, using people, turning people. And that's something that you have to be able to do when you're selling drugs. Like when you have to be able to know your environment, you have to get people hype on what you're doing. And I think so Jacob would come in and he would see them as a score, and probably have to calm his brother down and be like, yo, like, look, we can get some stuff off this. Now, John would probably want to rob him.
John would get fucked up wherever. He'd find whatever he get fucked up off. Dakota, I would not like. Oh, sorry for cousin. Dakota would not like these people. I know I've met these people. I'm wary of these people in real life. I worked as a bouncer for a long time. I was in punk rock bands for a long time. I have a lot of friends who are drug runners. I can't name them by name, but what's up, Team DC? Hey, love y'all. But you know, so like Dakota, when they walked in the room, would be a little wary. Like, do you know these guys? Does someone know who let them in the front door? How'd they get in the front door? You know what I mean? So
That's the Chicago.
Mm.
that's the Chicago for sure. But also, like, those are some of my best friends and relatives. And, you know, like, I got an uncle who gets out in 2023 on good behavior. God willing, we're pulling for you, babe, you know? And so it's like part of the pastiche is like the people we interacted with and those little parts of the story and how that becomes the decoupage of these characters, you know. And a comment on a way to start a conversation. We're not giving you the end all be all. We want to talk to you about it because we know it's epidemic has affected so many people in so many ways. It's a drop of water in the ocean, you know.
So I think an interesting thing when you get into criminality is that there is an aversion to associate with it or to look at criminals as, I mean, to bring up Lorelai again, that's about the prison system, which is like completely messed up in our country and completely race related, and also is not really about rehabilitation at all, and it's all about just slave labor in prisons, and literally like it's an entire messed up system. And these characters are two of them, but there's so many that are products of their environment, products of their neighborhoods that they are not allowed to get out of in any kind of way that is presented to them in an easy way. Like, oh, you had a library in your neighborhood? Well, lucky for you. You know, not everybody has those kind of influences around them. And so I think that to villainize people that are criminals, or to think for us that we are trying to make a movie that's saying, hey, drug running is profitable, it's not. I mean, that's not what we're trying to say.
We're not trying to glorify, but we're not trying to demonize either. You know what I mean? We're trying to present it, and you can pass moral judgment on it. That's up to you, what you project on the screen or whatever you're watching it on. You know?
It didn't feel it was a political film. It feels like a very personal film.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but when you take it to Europe and all the questions are about gun ownership and food culture and, you know, gas.
But that's just that's their bullshit. You know?
It's art over there, it's commerce over here, and that's fair. I mean, that's how we work with film.
I say this as a European person who's now, you know, in the United States and then in Canada, that, you know, Europeans have this idea of Americans as being just gun-toting lunatics, and it's probably just very easy to see people as caricatures that way. So you're probably going to, you know, end up being accused of making a political statement about something that you didn't even make a political statement about, because you're just exploring a story, right, at the end of the day. And I want to talk about that because that segues pretty interestingly, because, you know, some of the stuff that I've read and some of the stuff I've heard about this film is, you know, it's like, it's risky. It takes risks, you know, risks are not good. This is 2022, right? There's, you know, you risk offending certain people, you risk, you know, turning certain people away. This isn't the curated crap that you see on Netflix. No offense to Netflix, you know, and I hope that Netflix picks up Anchorage at some point. You know, that would be awesome. And I think that, and I absolutely think they should, because it's like, it's exactly what's missing from platforms like Netflix and Amazon is gritty, honest, indie. You know, I think people are shifting towards that. So, you know, there's a compromise here, right? On the one hand, you make the film you want. On the other hand, you probably piss some people off. How conscious are you of that?
I mean, when we made this film, you know, there's like, how do you say this? I wanted to make a film that was honest to the experiences that we have, true to the story and true to the characters. Mm-hmm. I knew that with this film that it would find a home where it wants to be, in festivals that would program it. And I knew that we might come against some programmers that are like, we can't, I mean, for example, like we talked about this a bunch, like we don't want to demonize drug users. We don't want to glorify it either. That's a hard stance, because if someone might assume that what we're saying is one thing and then that's attached to the festival, it's like, yeah, but one of the most beautiful things I think about independent filmmaking is that we are allowed to take risks. I am not a studio. I am the director, executive producer. He's the screenwriter, the producer, the actors. Like, we are allowed to take those risks, and not to say like I would die on a hill for this movie, and for the fact that art and it's like freedom of speech isn't the thing. It's just that like sometimes there can be so many cooks in the kitchen that nobody remembers what soup they're making anymore. It's like, yo, we were just making a tomato soup. where does bacon come from? And who brought the chives in? And like, why is there now mascarpone in there? And it's like, what kind of soup is this? And it's like, it was just supposed to be tomato. And so like, I just wanted to make the purest version of this story that I could. And then if the world accepts it, and we've been like, and that's a risk, for sure. That's a risk, because I think there are steps that we could have done. We could have had some things that would have made it a little bit more palatable, a little bit more less polemic, you know, and yeah, but that's not the type of films that I like.
Yeah,
those I watch them, you know what I mean? But like the types of movies that affect me and stick with me are the ones that I love and hate. And so I was like, if I make a movie and people hate it, well, they're still talking about it, aren't they? And if they love it because we took those risks and they appreciate that.
That was our greatest hope. What you asked about is that people would have violent reactions to it, good, bad, or otherwise.
Ideally, not violent.
Well, not like actual. I'm not talking.
Never change. Please never change on this one thing. Please, I hope I can follow you both for 20 years, and that I can be like, they didn't change that one thing about themselves. This is actually really funny. Have you both had have you been introduced to Adam Raymeyer, Dinner in America?
Introduced to the person, or introduced
to him, introduced to this film?
No. I knew about his film. I haven't seen it yet.
Absolutely. You know what? After the festival's done, putting an email right in. Cool. Got to make that connection. Number one, because this is Adam's vibe. So I'll tell you a funny story. This is like this is an Anchorage Q&A, but we're gonna transition over to something that's very related to Anchorage, which is Bunny Game. And Adam made this film, Bunny Game. Have you watched it?
Funny Game?
No, Bunny Game. Bunny Games.
Oh,
I believe it was called Bunny Games. No, Funny Games is crazy. No, Bunny Games. And Adam made this film, I think it was like roughly 10 years ago. And then he made Dinner in America, and Dinner in America like opened up Sundance in 2020. And there was like these reviews that said like, hey, you know, we're going to finally forgive him for making this like crass, you know, hooker, like offensive film like 10 years ago. It was like basically like a snuff film, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, I didn't ask for forgiveness, right? Basically. Yeah. He's just like, because there were certain people who were so pissed off by that film. It was banned in certain countries. It's got a cult following, that film. And he's telling me like there's like a 12-page hate letter about it. It was something I hope he sees this and he's like, it was a 10-page hate letter. But like it was crazy. And we're just talking about it. I was like, gosh, imagine having that kind of impact on somebody, that they would write you 10 pages about why they hate your film. That's amazing. I can't write you 10 pages about why I loved my mother. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think something important just in the context of this movie and this conversation is that something that we talked about a lot is that we're not interested in shock value, at least for this film. We didn't want it, you know, if you look at the violence in the movie, most of it happens kind of off screen. I didn't want to make a movie that people would hate. I wanted to make a movie that I felt like people might have strong opinions on. Yeah. But I think that, you know, our goal in the end, I want people to be entertained. Now, entertained doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be comfortable. You can be uncomfortable and be entertained simultaneously, but like, you know, we didn't make this movie to poke any bears or to
piss people off,
give a middle finger to the system and see like, we don't need you, because that's the thing that's so interesting is that like, yes, I'm an indie filmmaker and I'm an actor that lives in Los Angeles that's working to have a career where I can be in those bigger pictures and studio films and stuff like that. But at the same time, I also want to make something that's devoid, like separate from that. And I think that like, you know, I think that sometimes there can be a voice in the independent thing, which is like, screw the studio system. It's about indie or nothing. And it's like, well, but there's something there. There's a middle ground of getting, and that's with everything. It's like, you know, when we have these arguments with people about different political standpoints, we want to pick the things that we are going to argue about the most. But what about the things we have in common? You know, at some point, I would like to take a studio and say, remember making a movie that, you know what I mean? Like just reminding like that thing of like, what is that pure version of filmmaking from you, which was maybe you with your friends in a VCR, like, you know, in your backyard, and like how much of that can we bring into the studio system? because we have to work together. The studios and the streaming
They're not
platforms.
separate. The things
Yeah.
aren't separate. We're all media too. Media is the big overarching thing now. It's not just film, television. There's no dissemination anymore. It's all media. You know what I mean? So what's the best? The best storytelling is what wins out in the long run. You know what I mean? If you focus on that, might take you a while to find your audience, whatever it is, but you focus on that, that stuff lasts the test of time. Just tell a good story. You know what I mean? And let
Yeah.
everyone else figure out what it was about. You set up all of these things to ask questions to an audience so they could actively participate, go home, have their own ideas, have their own thoughts about it, argue with their friends on the drive home. I didn't like it. I loved it. Well, what did you like about it? Well, that's what I hated about it, and what's the in between, and, what's the colors in between. So.
I think there's so much to tackle with this film. Let's talk a little bit about how you made it, okay? Because we got some responses. I asked a few people to watch it, and I said, without Googling it, I want you to give me an idea of what the budget was for this film, and I want you to give me an idea of how long they took to make it. And we got crazy. We got 40 days, 32 days, 25 days. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked to realize, if they haven't already heard it at your workshop, is that you made this film in 5 days. 5 days. Yeah, they both put up 5. Don't count them both. It's not 10. It's 5.
Oh, no.
It's 5.
Just 5.
It's 5. Just 5. Okay?
Just 5.
Which is an incredible accomplishment in itself. And I think, in terms of just the exhaustion, that the mental fatigue, the planning, the stick-to-itiveness, and also the risk involved in giving yourself such razor-thin margins. The belief, where does that come from? The belief in yourselves. It's your directorial debut. It's not like your 10th feature, although it could be your 10th feature. It could have fooled me, But where does that come from?
I mean, I think that the confidence as far as directing goes came into not knowing how much work it was actually going to be. So I, based on my lack of knowledge, had compartmentalized into just the pre-production, the script, and the shooting. I was like, can I do those things with somebody and bring some people on to help me do that? And I was like, yeah, I can. And then as it continues to unfold, it continues to open up. I'm like, man, if I had known all of these steps before I went in, maybe I wouldn't have done that. But I think it was actually better that I didn't. And surrounded myself by talented people. We wanted a crew that didn't reflect the people that were on screen.
Yeah, it's a violent white world on screen. That's not the DNA of the people.
We wanted a set that was a bunch of people that were very talented, that were very close, that all knew immersive theater. We had my partner and a director we worked with a bunch. Her name is Meredith Trinan, came on as an associate director, which isn't really a role in film, but it's basically, it's kind of like metaphysical scripty, kind of like keeping track of performances as we're going, because I'm directing, driving the car. And
we defined what our own roles would mean. We got to define how we would make the thing too,
And then 5 days it wasn't just like, if somebody had given me more money to make it, I don't know how many more days I would have actually needed, because we rehearsed it so much in pre-production that we picked the locations on a location scout, and they just happened to be chronological. So I said, okay, we do all natural light. We shooting chronologically. We don't have to go back to locations. We don't have to worry about continuity with script. We just have to worry about continuity with cigarettes. And I love to smoke. So,
me too.
And we brought ourselves like a team of people that were incredibly talented. Our cinematographer, Erin Nafee, is just out of this world. Our AC, Mike Dooman, was like focus pulling, working on lighting stuff, production design, Perry Powell.
Jetty doing the location sound. We were stealing dialogue from him. Like, he was saying cool stuff. It's like, let's try it. Maybe the character should say it.
And our 2 producers and a production coordinator. And
Gia Rajoli, Ethan Seneker, production coordinator.
Ryan Clements.
We touched on this in your workshop, but I think that it's so incredible that you've surrounded yourself with people who could challenge you, who know more than you.
Yeah.
Aaron, for instance, had, you had mentioned 10 years of experience, behind them. And I don't think that, a lot of people out there, when they think about this task of, I'm going to direct my first feature, the first thing they're worried about is I don't want anyone to challenge my perspective as a director.
Right.
You took the other approach. You said I want someone to challenge everything I say and to be able to inform me and help me. And I think that takes a certain amount of getting over yourself.
That's what we responded to about story over everything. Our version of it, we talked about earlier, our version of it was best idea wins, but it means to me the same thing in spirit and soul, where it's like the story is true north. You follow that. Anyone could have a good idea, especially shooting chronologically, so everyone's on the same page as we go along. Anyone could have a good idea. And Aaron, our DP, for example, had ideas for scenes that, like, just a throwaway idea would become a whole scene. And because we knew the characters, we could adapt it into the script in a proper time in the chronology. And, so it was a big collaborative effort.
Yeah, I think it's important to release the ego. I'm a quick learner. I like really associate with SpongeBob. I call it like to be a sponge is one of my favorite things, to get myself in a scenario and just like soak up all the information that I can. And so for me to say, to come onto a set and surround myself with these people, I know what I want. I know what I can see. That's when I decided, like, I think I want to direct this. And I talked to Dakota about that. I started seeing visions of it. I started dreaming of it. I started seeing the movie, and I was like, it has to be me, because I don't know that I can translate this vision to another director to direct me, but I do know that I can translate this vision to technical people and say, I want this to feel this way, or I want this to be this way. And then for me to be open to saying those 3 words that are very scary for a lot of people, which is, I don't know.
And that's also why we have Meredith Trinan, our associate director, is like watching performance, keeping an eye over performance, keeping an eye on the two of us, having worked with us multiple times over the last 5 years, can keep an eye on it too. Everyone on set is keeping an eye on it and like coming up with ideas for dialogue, for like where the song could go, what could we do in this scene, the pole. There's all these little idiosyncratic things that we were stealing from everyone around us, you know what I mean? And it was like 10 of us for 5 days. So it really does get that circus atmosphere, chosen family atmosphere. And, you start grokking each other's language and, speaking a similar kind of like dialogue. And yeah, so it really just becomes a group effort.
Yeah, I think it's just incredible the way that you've made this film. There's a couple of questions about this. Now, I have, a response to this, because a few people have mentioned about the money, and there were some questions that filtered in during the thing, but this is maybe a different way of looking at that. So this is, what would you two geniuses do with $1 million to make a film go nuts? That's from
Micah. Do you have $1 million? That's my first question, because I think we should get into business together.
Yeah, I think that it's just a scale thing for me, right? Okay. For this movie, it was all about how can we make a film that was shot on a shoestring look like $1 million, and those are by bringing in really talented people in post-production and color, sound, and composing and editing, obviously, and those kind of things can really elevate your project. Even your graphic design, which
huge.
Killed it.
Which is incredible.
Jens Wagner.
Yeah, he's based in Germany. We met him on Instagram, and those kind of things are the things that can elevate a project in many kind of ways. Is the way that it looks and feels. But for me, the limitations, I think that just means, like, one of my favorite things to do is give people opportunities, right? And so I would have loved to have a cast of 30. It wouldn't be this movie, but like have a large cast and like bring all these people that I've worked with, would like to work with, actors, different people, different types of artists, costume designers, and give them work. Because like, it's a shame what's going on with the Oscars right now. And like, people are not getting their time to be on stage, especially like the short film category. Give me a break. And it's ridiculous. Those things, editing, costume, they are integral to the part of the movie. And so if I had $1 million, I would pay people. You know what I mean? I would bring on a team to make something that everybody is really passionate about.
Yeah.
And we're both working on some scripts that we're really excited about. And
but in general, I think it would be like to take this model that we've built on this smaller scale, like kind of, scotch tape and shoestrings, and apply that to a much larger thing where we could bring in an ensemble cast, other people we work with. We could work on a larger scale story or a story with more breadth, but it's always going to be centered in that personal maybe familial, or maybe whatever that relationship is. That's the centrifuge around which the entire world spins around. And then the rest is mise en scène, not to quote the name of our sales agent or anything. But,
oh, cool. Aiden, what's up, man? It was nice having like a hour and a half coffee chat with you this morning on the filmmakers coffee chat or whatever. So the next there are two features that I'm kind of thinking about, but I think the one that I'm really excited about that's just really kind of lighting me up is going to be something that I'm about like 99% I'm going to act and direct in. And I think, I'm inspired by other people that do that. There's a lot that continue to do that. And for me, it's really important to just make sure that I'm surrounded by the right type of team, and to make sure that I have somebody there that is able to kind of help on the performance side while I'm on camera. And I love being a director. I love putting a team together. I love the difference between acting and directing for me is that as an actor, I bring a version of myself, like a very small role of responsibilities, not really a lot of say in a production. I just kind of come on and I'm a vessel for your project. And I love that. But as a director, I get to bring in all of the things that I didn't think had anything to do with each other. And then they come together and I'm like, oh, that actually makes me a really good director. Like being good with people or being like really efficient, and those kind of things that I get to add my taste in style, art, music, and then add that into the acting stuff as well. It's like I've never felt more fulfilled in my life to have every part of my body working in that way. And so, yeah, acting, directing is coming up again for sure.
That's so interesting. People overthink directing all the time. They think you have to have every cinematic reference in the world. You have to always have all the answers. Honestly, I think you hit on the head there a few things. You have to be open to experience and other people. You have to be good with people. It really does help. I'm sure that you worked with people on this film that gave you their best, right? And it shows. And those same people probably could have not given you their best if maybe they weren't being treated well. It's a human nature thing, right? We all have an A+ performance. We all have a D+ performance. And every now and again, we do give someone a D+ performance, not intentionally. It's just the subconscious thing where it's like we just don't have the gusto to do it. But, when somebody comes to us and says, hey, I'm treating you like a human being and I've got this project, I'm super psyched. How do you not get psyched about it? We got so psyched about Anchorage. And that enthusiasm is absolutely infectious. And I think that you're presenting yourselves as who you are to every festival you go to, and it's catching people. You're making an impression. So let's talk about the festival run. Which really it started with a lot of no's. Yeah. 9, as you said on stage.
You get one
and you get one dot, and that dot, I guess, for you was Oldenburg. Yeah. So Europe's
like our American and German at the same. Yeah.
Yes, Europe's best little festival.
Big Little
Big Little Festival. That's how they market themselves, and it's I believe a film. Like a Movie Maker magazine, I think, called them that, and a fantastic festival that's obviously celebrating independent cinema and independent voices. So talk about that win, that experience. We watched it as a team. We celebrated it after. It's like we were like living through you, and we've shown that video to so many people and saying, how could you not root for Scott and Dakota? They're such incredible people, and you could just tell. So talk about your approach to Oldenburg, the win, and also your approach to festivals.
That was a dream come true experience, and that was like the first time we took the boots on the ground approach out of town. Like that was our intention from the beginning, is like boots on the ground. We want to be there. We want to meet everybody. We want to see every film. We want to be at every event, every panel, every Q&A. We want to be hanging out with everyone at dinner, at the bar afterwards. This is something we've been waiting for so long, and we just knew like, this is our opportunity. This is our foot in the door, or like our crowbar to get through the fortress wall. So let's use it as a ticket to meet other filmmakers, lift up other filmmakers, and just extend this community. Because the reason we're working together is we met in immersive theater 5 years ago. You never know how these connections are going to pan out.
Yeah.
So this was just like a long coming dream. We planned how we would be at festivals for years. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we could like play Flee Fly Flow with a room full of people? Sorry to cuss. I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
sorry.
okay.
All right, my bad.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
We submitted starting in August of 2020. So we were in the middle of the pandemic, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen with the spring and what would happen with festivals. And we got a lot of no's from some of the big ones earlier, and something that we had kind of like thought was like, man, because of this pandemic, maybe there's actually going to be less movies. But with a switch to virtual, it actually made less slots and more competitive. And there was actually just as many films as any other year.
Even more people were like, well, I don't have to go. I don't have to, I can just turn it in.
Yeah. So we really, we waited by nature of getting rejections and waiting for a yes. But when Oldenburg and Stony Brook hit us up, and there were some film festivals that said yes to us early on that were virtual only. And we were very specific about wanting to wait until we could be in person for this film, because when you make your first film, you want to be in an audience with a theater. And we were just so blessed that so many of these film festivals really fought to make that happen. And we got really lucky that a lot of these film festivals happened in person, that they were safe, they all followed protocols. And when we went to Oldenburg, and after winning the grand prize at Stony Brook, so that happened. And that just kind of blew us away from that experience. And then our next stop was Oldenburg, and we went to this film festival. We were up against so many incredible films, and their grand prize, the German Independence Award, is chosen by the audience. And when we won, when I told Dakota before that award ceremony, I said, hey man, I've got a feeling that you're going to win something.
No, you didn't say that. You said, like, if you win something, just go up there alone.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would I do that? Do you think I'm going to win something?
I was like,
honestly think I'm
and I was like, I want you to have your moment up there alone. So they call the best actor, and Dakota goes up there and he has this moment, and it was like really emotional. And then I was sitting there and I was like, cool, that's it. Like, that's what we came here for. We got that win. And then they opened the envelope of the award, the audience award for best feature, and called me up on stage and
crying again.
Yeah. And I said on the stage in that time that my heart was exploded open by that festival and the people there in a way that I didn't know that I needed. And film festivals is all about community. And as an actor, it can be such a solipsistic role of just going to auditions on your own, failing, getting rejected so many times that it doesn't really feel like you fight for those very few opportunities you get to feel community on stage or in a project. And so to be able to make something, feel that community in the process of making it, and then to feel the community in the process of sharing it with the audiences and meeting other filmmakers and seeing their work. Like he said, we were just so happy to be there. And that was icing on the cake, just to have that kind of, it's not even validation of just like a moment that feels so purely just filled with joy and just excited that we were there.
And on a completely emotional level, what it felt like is, I've never been skydiving, but I've seen footage of it. You know how it's like there's like a quiet in the cab before they jump out of and then it's just like, it's just like everything is coming at 200 miles an hour. And it was like that. We were sitting in the audience for so long, just like nervous energy. And then the awards started, and it was like, I tried to go get a glass of water and call my mom, and it was like an hour and 15 minutes later, just trying to get through everyone saying thank you, giving hugs, having a good time, talking to you, running into taking pictures. You know what I mean? Like, it was just instant, like time changed in dimension.
And that's a power that audiences have. So vote for your favorite films. That's a power that film festivals have. It's a very important role for all these film festivals to remember that it is important to, for whatever reason, that how much power that really has, and that festival changed the shape of our entire experience for the rest of the festivals after that. So
thank you, Torsten Newman.
Yeah, and also thank you for Pendance for having us and giving us this opportunity to talk about our film. It really means a lot.
Of course, it's our pleasure. Of course, it's so interesting the way festival politics work. As we've alluded to before, it's like no one's taking a chance. No one's gonna take a chance. One festival takes a chance. Now everybody's a little bit more comfortable with it, or just paying attention to it a little bit more. I think there's a sort of this just happens. I think it's human nature. I also think personally that a lot of programmers don't know what to think sometimes. There's a film they're like, that was pretty good, but I'm not sure. But if Oldenburg, if they respect Oldenburg's choices and if they follow the festival well, oh, they gave him that. Okay, all right, best actor. All right, okay, this has got it. Okay, I'm not wrong. Okay, like I'm not. It's hard. It's hard to be the first anyway. It's like you're at a crosswalk, and the light hasn't turned red. Being that first person to walk, and like that fear of like, am I gonna get hit by a car? It's like, but then it's funny because when somebody else takes the first step and it's not the right step, you subconsciously start walking too. It's hilarious to just observe it, just like standing on a crosswalk. Just take one step and just watch everybody just move. It does take one yes, and I think that that's really important. But moreover, like the unique element of your festival strategy, I have found, is just how present you are at everything. And you've alluded to it before, how you're lifting other filmmakers up. You're following other filmmakers. You're talking with other filmmakers. I feel like I've learned about every independent film in America, having followed you for the last month. Like you're talking about this film that you're in competition with, and you pointed to a very beautiful story earlier about a director who came up to me and said, that they'd never had another director they were in competition with celebrate their work this much. So where does that ethos come from? Like that spirit of inclusivity, non-competition, celebration of art.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the awards and this feeling and all that kind of stuff, and that's an aspect of something. But
that's icing on the cake.
It's icing on the cake. It's a really nice thing. But I think that we have an opportunity. We have a way to experience people's work. We have a way to see through festivals work before it's released. And sometimes, like literally, this we submitted to you because Sabrina did an Instagram post about my movie after seeing it. You don't know the effect that who's going to see that and what that's going to mean to somebody in that kind of way. And so I can help. I know what it feels like to be an indie film of however many. Like when we're talking about programming, I think it can be very easy to be an independent filmmaker and be jaded by some of the politics of the system or the filmmaker process. But just remember how many thousands of films they have to watch, how many good films, how many great artists there's in the world. And it's really easy to say, I have the best thing. And you have to feel that confident. You should feel that confident about your work. Otherwise, why are you making it? But at that same time, there's so many other films that need a platform just as much as you do. And I think that we are nothing without the people that we surround ourselves with, and we are nothing without the help that we give to other people. If we can lift other people up, and someone sees that and is changed by that, of saying, why is he sharing that? And then someone else starts sharing everyone else's work, and then what's happening? Like everyone is just being a little better. I mean, I think that kind of stuff is contagious, and it's really important to remember that we're not in competition with each other. We're all artists making incredible, ideally, making whatever your version of your art is into the world is worth people seeing. And if I can do if I can help in any kind of way to make that happen, because when the first couple times anybody's ever done that for me, it means a lot. I mean, we all go to see somebody's show, but what if, you brought some people with you to the show? Bought some extra tickets. What if you posted afterwards and said, hey, they're playing on these times, go see this show?
Movie, yeah.
Like that kind of stuff, whether it's music, local businesses, that's the part of community over this idea that there's some kind of financial oligarchy that's running everything. It's we the people are stronger in numbers. And
I'm going to go out on a limb, Rob, but I got a feeling that you like movies. I'm just going to call me crazy. And I got a feeling that whole spirit is infused into all of Penn Dance and all that you do. Well, you're looking at your poster children. You know what I mean? This is something that we always wanted. So if you told me when I was 15 years old, just in love with the movies, one day you're going to get to go see them before they come out. Yeah. You're going to get to go meet all the people who made them. You're going to get to work with those people potentially in various forms. So it's like, I would say, how many drops of blood do you need? Where do I sign on the contract? Like, this is something we've dreamed about for so long. So to finally be here, it's like the prophecy consumed. Like, okay, all these plans we've had as film nerds for years and years, we get to do it. We get to go see the movies, lift up all the movies, meet all the filmmakers, so it's kind of like the most rewarding. It's work still, and it's like we go out late, so sometimes we're tired the next day, as Rob, you also might know. I know how much you guys are working overtime, but it's worth it. It's the greatest reward because it's what we've always dreamed of.
I've lost my train of thought just when you said that. It's like how
Sorry.
tired you are, and I was like, I had a dream.
Sorry.
I had a dream of myself floating out of my body, and I was asleep like a baby.
Good man. You're moderating your own dreams. So, Rob, what are you dreaming of right now? What is your inspiration for this dream?
Alaska.
They got the ocean there, bro.
Opioids in Alaska, buying opioids, selling them, marked up, priced, becoming a billionaire. I don't know. I am curious, what is each brother's ethos? They seem to have the same one in the beginning, but then it diverges. Without going into spoilers, go ahead.
I think we said earlier it was kind of like you're looking for like salvation, and I'm looking for damnation. And Jacob feels beholden to John. John feels like I'm always in charge because I'm the firstborn, the blood right. So those little things cause huge conflicts later. Overarching, like, what do they want from life? I think John wants to throw $1 paper bill airplanes into the ocean. You know what I mean? Some people just want to see the world burn.
Yeah.
Like,
it's interesting you say that. Some people.
All sound and fury symbolizing nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think Jacob is, I think he has been in the system of his environment for so long that when he lost his mother, who is kind of his last family member besides John, it's really kind of shaken him up a little bit into this front that he puts on for his brother, and this front that he puts on from when he's in Florida, and who he sells drug with, and what he has to do to be that kind of person, and who he actually is, which, I think he's never in his life. I feel this way a lot because when you're in the military, you move around a lot and you don't have any control, and you don't have to be in the military to move around a lot. And some family homes are like that.
I moved around a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're just kind of pulled from situation to situation against your will. And that's kind of something that I brought from my own life into the character of Jacob, that like, finally he has a choice. Like when I was graduating college and I was like, where do I want to go? And that was the first time that I ever had the ability to be like, I don't have to ask anybody. I just have to say, I'm going to California. I'm going to move to Los Angeles. And 5 days after I graduated, I moved. And I think that's a little bit of what Jacob is kind of, what's shifting for him, is that he's during this trip, which is, I think for him, kind of in his mind, the last trip he's going to do for his brother. I got to do this. He'll never let me live this down if I don't. And then he's kind of thinking on this trip, like, well, what do I actually want to do? And then as he's in the process of doing these things, he's being combated with the things, the ghosts of his past, his violence, his tendency to,
And I would say that their shared ethos is what Orson Welles says in the Muppet movie when the Muppets show up to his office and he calls his secretary and he goes, Rebecca, prepare the standard rich and famous contract, Mr. Kermit T. Frog and his friends. Like that's what they're both hoping for. Let's get rich, whatever that means to them.
No, they're incredibly relatable characters, even though I think there's so much humanity in both characters that even if you never, ever had a brother, if you never did any crazy things that these two do, that there's elements of them that you've both added to it through your performance and through Dakota, your writing, Scott, through your directing, that like, okay, I get it. I could see myself doing that. I have a cousin like that, or a brother like that, or that reminds me of this relationship or that relationship. And, it goes to something that one of our Penn Eds alumni said in 2019, which I find myself repeating way too often, which is what's most personal becomes most universal. When you take the risk of putting something of yourself out there into the world, it also enables something. And the other thing that I was, about to say right before I had like that sleeping Rob float out of my head was that everything's weird until it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And earlier today I saw Laura on Instagram, and she was sharing Anchorage, and I was like, that's interesting. First it was Anchorage sharing all the feature films. Now it's some of the feature filmmakers now sharing Anchorage, and now it's not weird anymore because that's going to be something that's now in her wheelhouse of expectations, that's something that's possible to do. And so you're creating change and ripple change and good change in the world, because you're right. Pendants would not exist without the community of artists that came together and said, hey, let's support these, 6 crazy people who are trying to put together a winter festival in Toronto, even though everyone's telling it's a really bad idea, right? And it's not to be...
Sounds like right up the alley.
Right. I mean, it's not even to be cocky or anything. It's not like we're geniuses or anything. We're just crazy. We wanted to try something different. We wanted to do something different that felt real and relevant to us. And so, in a way, like Anchorage is as much Pendants as Anchorage. Like there's such a relationship and overlap between, what we stand for and what this film stands for. So we're so honored, to have discovered it, to have it at this festival. It's about independent thought. It's about, doing things that people don't want you to do. It's about running before you can walk. It's about doing there's so much packed into this film, and we're so excited and proud. I think, if anyone else has any questions, we have time for one last question.
It's a juicy one.
Yeah.
Also Appreciation Club, Rob. Like I feel so lucky and esteemed to be included in this prestigious lineup you have, and the history of this, and just like these movies we love and everything we've seen so far this weekend, everything we got coming up. Yeah. Lucifer's coming up. I can't wait for it. But I don't know. Yeah, we're just so excited to be a part.
Lucifer, Midnight Shorts coming up. Midnight Shorts already started in the Q&As in 15 minutes with those. I mean, it is of course an incredible film festival, and of course we program with this love for cinema always. That's the primary driving factor, is because great films change lives, great films change minds, and count me as one of your biggest fans forever. Like our entire team is so, Kayla, myself, Maria, Camilla, all of us, like we're so proud. We're proud to be celebrating this film with our audience, and we hope that our audience will like the film, will follow the film along. Tell the audience, like, what's your plan for the film festivals? If you're going to more film festivals, obviously, I believe Jim Thorpe film festival's up next. Is it?
No, our next one that we're going to is the Fargo Film Festival in North Dakota.
Gotcha. Okay.
We have some film festivals we haven't announced yet, but we are going to. We can do this for this Q&A. That we're going to the Treefort Music Festival in Boise, Idaho, has a film festival called Film Fort. And we are in that festival with a movie called Jethica, which is made by my friend that I met in Poland, Pete O's. We were talking about that earlier in our panel. And also another film that won the American Film Festival in Poland called Down with the King. It's directed by Diego Ongaro, and it's starring Freddie Gibbs, if you guys know who Freddie Gibbs is, a rapper.
And then it's like mostly a music festival. So like all my punk rock past 15 years of history is coming in. We're going to go see my friend's band Wombo. We're going to go see my friend's band Lung. Like Shannon and the Clams are there. Your friend band Pachi Man's there. So it's going to be like a reuniting of the old ways, the old school with the movie world.
So we've got about 5 film festivals coming up.
5 or 6, yeah.
We're working on securing distribution soon, and then we'll be heading to the Film Marché in Cannes, and I think in June or May, whenever that is, to look for international, to kind of play into some of those international markets that we've hit, like Germany and Poland and Italy, that we've won awards at, and try to get this movie out as much as possible. And for us, Dakota and I, to continue being able to be champions for this film and for independent filmmaking, and
press bring that into flesh, take pictures with the babies.
Yeah, and we're excited. I mean, this is we've never, either of us have been to Canada. We're dying to come. So this is a very special way for us to have our Canadian premiere, but we hope to one day be in person with you in a theater with,
having emulsions or something, or whatever is custom there.
Oh, we do have one last question here. Would you do an actual road trip to Anchorage at some point in time?
We
Yes.
really hope to. We need to take a picture of Scott like pulling me over the border there.
my grand.
Uh-oh. Y'all disappeared. Uh-oh. Okay, hang tight for 1 minute. We have lost them, and we're going to get them back.
Sorry.
We got them back.
To answer the question, sorry, my grandparents made a trip from. There's a line in the movie. Our grandparents made a trip from Pompano all the way up to Anchorage.
It's kind of a family thing.
Yeah, and that's a real story. My grandpa was in the Navy and then was a truck driver, and they made a road trip from Florida to Alaska and spent a couple months up there. We would love to come visit. We met a lot of people from Alaska, specifically from Anchorage, Alaska, at the Mammoth Film Festival, and that was really cool to meet people from there and talk about how the opioid epidemic has affected them and how much of our movie rang true to them, and really interesting. And so I'd love to go up there and just hang out for a bit.
Tell all my former drug runner friends we actually made it. It's like that joke. Like,
but we came with just our clothes in a bag. No teddy bears.
Totally.
Just a clean trip of.
Why did the chicken cross the road? To prove to the drug runner it could be done. You know what I mean?
I feel like somebody out there is going to take this film very literally and consider it a business plan. And you know what? I think I'm that person. I started researching like how to get to Anchorage like the next day. You made a really solid pitch for this. I don't mind being a criminal. That's okay.
Yeah, just make a movie. It's much better.
All serious, like all jokes aside, the opioid epidemic is very serious.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Specifically in Alaska, there is, and specifically during the pandemic, where a lot of the budgeting has been cut for in America.
Overdoses are up 250%.
You have a lot of people that are addicted to opioids that were trapped at home and couldn't leave, and their centers were closed down where they would go to their meetings. And it's a very I know
we've lost friends.
We joke about it, but
it's like the only way to deal with it is to be able to talk to it in human terms and just be real about it. But we've lost so many people to it, and our personal lives have been affected by it in various ways we can't talk about. But
you'd have to be stupid to drive across however many borders from Florida. And then just to get into Canada and then into
Alaska. Which we hate in real life, but we love in the movies, and it's a movie reality, These are not guys I'm going to the bar with later. These are guys I'm like, why don't you go ahead and I'm going to run this way.
Well, I hope that everyone who watched Anchorage, first of all, we're going to stitch this Q&A so that everyone who watches it later tonight, tomorrow, can watch this and meet you. I think one thing that I would like to request all Pendancers, and if you're a lifer at Pendance, you've definitely talked to me at some point. You've seen me at the festival, even though I was super sleepy. I probably said hi to you. Do me a favor, share the film with somebody. If you liked it, talk about it and carry forward this pay it forward attitude of, let's support. And, I do believe in what you're saying, that communities do matter and that we as a collective, we the people, can change the direction of one film, one artist, one concert, and we can make it work. It's definitely there. Just we need the intent and we need the attention to do it. So, thank you so much for screening at Pendance. I hope you enjoy the rest of the films that you watch. I hope the other filmmakers who are watching, I hope that they have from tonight, they'll have till Sunday night to watch Anchorage. So don't dilly-dally too much, but you do have some time if you missed it tonight. So you're busy watching, catching up on stuff. I get it, but definitely check out Anchorage at some point. And I hope you guys get some good reviews out of this. I do hope we'll meet once and we'll meet again in person, and that'll be so lovely. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of Pendance.
Thank
you everyone at Pendance. We're so thankful for all of you, and it was a dream to be here. It's the ultimate gift just to be here with y'all.
We love you. Thank you.
We love you guys back. All right. Talk to you later.
Yeah, we'll see you in a. Oh shoot, we never did Flee Fly Flow.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Here we go. All right. So it goes like this, right? Just lap, clap, snap, clap, 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 snap, clap. All right. Now repeat after me. Flee.
Flee. Flee.
Flee. Yeah, you're with me.
Flee, fly.
Flee.
Flee.
Fly.
Fly.
Flee, fly, flow.
Flee. Fly. Flow.
I'm a llama, kuma llama, I'm a llama vista.
I'm a llama, kuma llama, I'm a llama vista.
Oh, no,
no, no, no.
vista.
Oh, no, no, not vista.
Yes, the meanie, what you wanna mean?
Yes, to be what you wanna mean.
What you wanna meanie, what?
What you wanna mean.
Beat me belly, oat, dope, bobo, skidit, dot, bobo, squat, dot, bot, dot, chow.
Female, no, bobo, skidit, not bobo, squat, and dot, and ciao, pendants. Thank
See
you
you,
for having us.
Candace.
That's how
See ya.
we goodbye. Ciao, bella.
See you guys.
See you in
See you
Anchorage.
later, man.